Alright guys, welcome back to another fun-filled, action-packed, non-flipped Algebra 2 classroom video with me, Coach Gu. This is Unit 6, Notes number 2. Yesterday we did the focus and directrix of a vertical parabola. Today we're doing the focus and directrix of a horizontal parabola. Now just take note though, horizontal parabolas look something like this. They open to the right or they open to the left. That means they're not a function because look at this vertical line test. Uh-oh, it's passing through 2 points. Uh-oh, that's not a function. So it's not a function. All right, that's why we don't use f of x here. We just use x. Okay, so the good thing is this is exactly like yesterday. The only difference is the equations changed because it's a horizontal parabola, okay? So the most important thing now is going to be identifying if you have a horizontal or a vertical parabola. We've always been working with vertical, but these are horizontal, right? And you need to identify what kind of parabola you're working with because the equations are different. So take a look right here. This is the equation of a horizontal parabola. It's x equals a times y minus k, quantity squared, plus h. So in order to tell from the equation what kind of parabola it is, notice how y is being squared here. You see that? Y is being squared. That lets you know it's a horizontal parabola. Because everything we've seen is always x squared, right? That's vertical, that's normal. But when y is being squared, that's going to be a horizontal parabola. Okay? And then notice also the equation is different. The x and the y change spots. Obviously, the h and the k also change position. But hk is still your vertex. Okay, so let's take a look at some attributes of the horizontal parabola. Take a look at this graph right here. The vertex is still going to be h comma k. So which one of these points is the vertex? The 0, 0, right, the red one, that's the vertex. Okay? Alright, which one's the focus? Just like yesterday, which one would be the focus?
0, 1.
You mean 1, 0?
1, 0.
1, 0, right. This is the focus, the blue point. Alright, but now the focus is at a different point. Notice the focus is at h plus p comma k. That is different than yesterday. Alright, the directrix, that's this line over here. Notice the directrix is now going up and down instead of left and right. Okay? And now it's the line x equals h minus p. That's also different from yesterday. It has to be x equals something because the line's up and down now. Okay? However, there are some things that do stay the same. For example, the focal length. What is the focal length? Does anybody know how to find the focal length from the picture? What is the focal length?
Oh, don't you? That's the parabola? Yeah.
That is the focal width.
Don't you? When you get the. Isn't x equals h minus p? And then you get that.
Right, but what does that even, what does the focal length mean though? What does it mean?
How many, the distance you go from.
From what?
The focus?
From the focus to where?
The width?
Yeah, like you said, that's the width. You're talking about the focal width.
Oh,
This is the focal length. What is that? That's from the focus to where? To the what? To the vertex. It's from the focus to the vertex. You see this right here? This length right here? That is the focal length. That's P. You know how we found P a bunch of times yesterday, right? P is telling you that. What's the distance between the focus and the vertex? That is the focal length. That's P. Okay? So make sure you understand that. P, the focal length, is the distance between the vertex and the focus. Okay, what is the focal width? A lot of you guys actually explains to me already. What is the focal width? From the focus to the parabola, right? So look at the focus, it's right here, right? If I'm trying to hit the parabola, do I go up and down or left and right? Up and down. Like yesterday on the vertical parabolas, it's left and right. But this time, we have a horizontal parabola. It's going up and down. So we hit the parabola right there, then we go down, hit the parabola right here, and then what is my total width here then? 4, exactly. That is the focal width. So the concepts are all the same, right? Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of things have been flipped. And that also changes the axis of symmetry. look, our parabola is opening to the right, so now my axis of symmetry would be a left to right line, like this, right? So it's going to be of the equation y equals k.
So y equals 0?
In this case, yeah, y equals 0, yeah. Okay, so those are just some attributes, and then let's go straight into some examples then. Because, like I said, everything here is the exact same concept as yesterday. The only difference is, do you have a vertical, do you have a horizontal, and then the equations might be different. So, this is graphing using the focus. We did this yesterday with the vertical parabolas as well, and it's the same exact idea. So, take a look at this equation. X equals 1 over 12 y squared. First things first, before you start, you don't want to start using formulas and stuff because you don't know if you're using the right ones, right? Because horizontal and vertical are different. So you need to tell, is this a vertical or horizontal parabola? So what is this one?
No, horizontal.
Horizontal. How did you know that?
Because the x is on the opposite. The equal sign. No parentheses.
Not necessarily with the
No,
parentheses.
y is on the by the
Y
112,
is-
by the 112.
Okay, but what is the specific thing right here?
Squared.
Right, y is being squared.
Got that.
Yeah, when y is being squared, it is horizontal. So I'm going to label this as horizontal because then it'll let me know that I'm going to use my horizontal formulas. Okay, so let's find things that we can always find first. The vertex and the axis of symmetry. What is the vertex here?
0, 0.
How did you know it's 0, 0?
Because it doesn't have the
It's not a
whole
plus
equation.
k or minus k.
Right, you don't see the plus h, you don't see the minus k or any of that. So h value is
0.
0 and the k value is?
0.
Right. So then, can you tell me the axis of symmetry?
Yeah, x equals 0. X equals 0. X equals 0.
That is incorrect.
Y equals 0.
Yeah, and where is your 0 coming from?
The y. Vertex.
But which one? Which value from the vertex?
K.
The k, that's right.
Yeah.
It's the k. Okay, yeah.
Door.
Door. Door.
Student.
All right. Student, door. Okay. So,
Yeah, he was scared.
so, he's trying to get some of that street corn, you know?
What?
I don't know. Okay.
And you got that on the thing.
Yeah, I got that on the thing. All right, anyways. So, but we can't find, now we need to find these 4 things, the focal length, focus, all that stuff.
Do you do the same thing for focal length? or the-
Exactly, it's the exact same. So, what do I need to find before I can find any of these?
P.
P. And how do you find P?
I don't know. I forgot.
The same way as yesterday.
I
That's
forgot
1
about
over
that too.
4k. Or
Equal what to 1 over 4P?
Oh, 112 equals 1 over 4p. And
That's
you
right.
cross multiply.
That's right.
And then you get 12 equals 4p.
Right?
And then you divide by 4.
Yes.
And then you get 3 equals p.
Very good.
God.
Okay, nice. So now we have all the values we want. We have H, we have K, we have P, because you can see every single formula, it just uses H, P, and K. So we have all of those now. All right, so what is your focal length here? 3. That's right, because the focal length is P. Remember, focal length is P. That's the distance between the vertex and the focus. Next, how do you find the focal width
How we do
The
this
absolute value,
of
4p.
4P? What is P?
3.
So the absolute value of 4 times 3
Absolute value equals
equals
12.
12. The focal width is
Divide
12.
8, 6. Right?
Right, but we're not doing that yet. Okay.
Okay.
Next, let's find the focus. What is the focus?
Isn't it 0
Can you tell me with the variables first?
h plus p.
H plus P.
plus p?
See that? What is H?
0.
0 plus,
3k.
3.
so plus 0 plus 3, then comma,
K.
and what's K?
0.
There we go. So then this focus the focus ends up being what?
0.
3 z.
Comma
3
3.
comma 0.
3 comma 0.
Yeah, that.
There we go. That's the focus. Okay, what is the directrix then?
Give me a sec.
Is it negative 3? No. Sorry.
Tell me with the variables first.
X equals h minus p.
X equals H minus P. So what is H?
0.
0 and then minus
3.
3. So then your directrix ends up being,
Negative 3.
so what is the whole line then?
X X equals -3.
X equals -3. That's right. Good. Okay, so now we're ready to graph because we've got all the information we need. So first we're going to graph the directrix. What is the directrix again? X equals -3. How do I graph that?
Draw straight.
Straight line, but is it left to right or up and down?
Up and down.
Up and down through.
-3.
What did you say? Oh, okay. That's not straight. X equals -3. That's right there. Okay, so then what do we want to graph next? The vertex, which is 0, 0. So right here. And then what do we need to graph after that? The focus, which is 3, 0, right here. Okay, so something very important to notice here, guys. Look at the relationship between the vertex, the directrix, and the focus. You guys know they always ask you like a few just like vocabulary things on tests, right? Stuff like that. You need to know the relationship between the vertex, the focus, and the directrix. Notice the vertex is perfectly in between the directrix and the focus, right? See that? It's 3 on each side. Okay? So that's one thing you need to know. The vertex is always perfectly in between the directrix and the focus. But then also, one very important thing that you need to note is the focus and the vertex are always in line with each other, right? When it's horizontal, they're in line left to right. When it's a vertical parabola, they're in line up and down, remember? So that's the relationship between those 3 things. Okay, so I just graphed the focus, and how do I find my 2 additional points?
You do the focus width.
The focal width, and what do I do with that?
You divide by 2.
Divide by 2, and then
It's 6.
you get 6, and then what do I do with that?
So,
6 on each side.
6 on each side.
Each side of the
Up and down.
focus, up and down, right? So the focus is this blue point right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here, and then down 6 right here. Because with those 2 points right there, that gives me a total width of 12. See that? And so then we can just connect our vertex with those 2 points. And there is your parabola. All right. Let's do one more example then. Here we go. Example 1. So, before we start here, before we can start using any equations or formulas, whatever, what do we need to do?
Find your vertex.
No, before that.
Find the peak.
Before any of that.
Oh, label.
Before that.
Oh, what the heck?
Because how do you know what formulas to use?
Oh, if it's
Vertex form.
What are you saying?
If it's horizontal.
Identify.
If it's horizontal or vertical, because there's 2 sets of formulas, right? One for vertical, one for horizontal. So you need to identify, is it horizontal or vertical? So is this horizontal or vertical? How did you know it's horizontal?
Because why?
The y is what?
Where?
Is being squared. The y is being squared, yes. So this is horizontal. Yes. So this is horizontal, which means we're going to be using the horizontal formulas. So what is my vertex of this?
-1, 2.
So look on the front of your notes and tell me look at the equation for a horizontal parabola.
It's x equals a versus y versus square plus 8.
Okay, so based on the equation you just told me, what would the vertex be?
-1 positive.
That's what it would be if it was a vertical parabola.
Oh, so 1, 2.
2, comma 1.
2, comma what?
1.
Negative
1.
-1, that's right. Because if you notice in the equation, for a horizontal, the h and the k switch places.
Oh.
So that's what you need to be careful for. For the horizontal, the h and the k have switched places. So inside your parentheses, that's actually your k. Outside, that's your h. Okay, so the h value here we have is what?
2.
2, and the k value is?
-1.
That's right. Okay, then we can find the axis of symmetry. What is the axis of symmetry?
2.
What is
Oh, -1.
y equals
-1.
-1, that's right. Y equals -1 because it's the k on the vertex. Because it doesn't even make sense to say x equals -1. Look, x doesn't equal -1, x equals 2. Or you can't say y equals 2 because y doesn't equal 2. Okay, so then what do we need to find next then?
Focal length.
The focal length, right, which is,
-1 for
but what is the focal length variable? What's the variable? The letter?
P.
P, right. We're trying to find the focal length, which is P. So how do we find that?
-1/4 equals
-1/4 equals
1/4 over P.
1 over 4P.
And then cross multiply.
Cross multiply. So what do we get? Negative. What do I get after I cross multiply?
Oh, -4.
-4 equals 4P.
This is -1 times 4P, which is -4P equals 4 times 1, which is 4. -4P equals 4. And what do I do after that?
Divide by -4.
Divide by -4.
Then you get P
P.
equals 1.
P equals -1. That's right. So now we have all three values that we want to use. We have H, we got K, and we have P. And so now we can find everything else. What is the focal length then?
You mean the focal? Oh, -1.
-1. How do I find the focal width?
Absolute value 4 times -1
Times -1,
absolute value.
right? So that comes out to be
4.
4. Where absolute value takes whatever the result is on the inside and makes it positive. So the focal width is 4. What is the focus now?
So you do.
Yeah, what do?
Let me see.
H.
You do
H plus
plus
H plus P. So what is H?
the -1.
Look, 2. You've labeled H as 2. Then you add P, so it's just -1, comma, and then what is the second value?
2. No.
What is the variable?
-1.
Right, it's -1, which is what? That was your K.
So it's 2 subtract 1. which is
Right. So what is your focus in the end?
1 -1.
1 -1. That's right. There you go. All right. So what is the directrix then?
X equals 2.
X equals, what do I do?
You gotta find it. You do minus -1. You do H.
H minus P, right? So what is H?
H subtract 1.
2, and then minus
-1.
-1 because P is -1. So that means your directrix is what? X equals 3, that's right. All right. So first we're going to graph the directrix. So how do I graph the directrix?
X equals 3 up and down.
Up and down, right. X equals 3. Right there. Okay. So then
You do the vertex.
we do the vertex. What's the vertex?
2 -1.
2 -1 right there. And then
And then you do the focal length, or the focus.
the focus, which is at
1 -1.
1 -1. That's right here. And then how do I find those two additional points?
You do the focal width from the focus
So
over 4 up and down.
over 4 up and down.
2 up.
2 up and 2 down, right? Because that's 2 up and 2 down is a total of 4. So 2 up from the focus is right there. 2 down from the focus is right. Oh, that's not where it is. 2 down from the focus is right here. And then with that, you can see that total width right there is 4. So that's how you know you did it right.
And then you connect it out.
Then you connect the points, right? The vertex and those bonus points, like this. And there's your parabola.
You know, I'm gonna forget all this when the test comes.
All right, so now on to the rest of these notes, writing equations of parabolas. We also did this yesterday, but yesterday the directions were very specific. It was with the vertex and the focus. But now it's going to be the vertex and the focus, or maybe the vertex and the directrix is different. But these steps show you how you can find your equation regardless of what they give you, okay? So, but before we start though, okay, first of all, I ask you, what is the equation of the parabola with vertex at the origin and directrix at x equals 2? What is the first thing we need to identify before we start with anything?
Vertex.
Before anything.
What it is, horizontal or vertical?
That's right. We have to tell if it's horizontal or vertical because that determines what kind of formulas we're going to be using. So, always, from the information they give you, you're going to be able to figure out, is it horizontal or vertical? So is this going to be horizontal or vertical parabola?
Horizontal.
How did you know that?
Because
X equals 2.
Because it says the directrix is x equals 2, right? Because look at your formulas right here. For horizontal parabolas, the directrix is x equals something. Because for vertical parabolas, it was directrix is y equals something. So that's how you can tell that this is going to be a horizontal parabola. So then it's horizontal. So you're going to be using your horizontal parabola formulas, right? So then step 1, you want to label all your givens. That's very important because you're going to be confused if you don't do that. So you got a vertex and directrix. The vertex is what? 0, 0, right? That's the origin, 0, 0. Which means, what is this? What do I label this as right here? This first 0. H and K, that's right. H and K. You labeling this right, you're telling me that H equals 0 and that K equals 0, okay? That's why you labeled it. Alright, the directrix is what? X equals 2. But what can I label this 2 as? No, look in your equations. What does it say? Up here. X equals H minus P. So what can I label this 2 as?
X.
None of those. The X is on the left side. What was on the right side of that equation?
0, 2.
No, let's look at, okay, look at this. X equals, what does it say on the right side?
H minus P.
H minus P. So what can I label the 2 as?
H minus P.
H minus P, that's right. H minus P. So by labeling that 2 as H minus P, you're telling me that...
0 minus 2?
No, you're telling me that... Okay, that's... Anyways, you're telling me that H minus P equals 2. Because that's the next step. By labeling this, you need to write an equation where you can find P, right? Because to write the vertex form equation, you need the vertex and you also need A, right? But you can't find A unless you have... What? P, right. So we're trying to write an equation that will help us find P. But how do you know what to write unless you've actually labeled it? So there it is right here. You see how we labeled the 2 as H minus P? Then that tells us our equation, that 2 equals H minus P. And then from that equation, I'll be able to solve for P. So what do I do to find P? Plug in 0 for H, right? So now it's 2 equals 0 minus P.
So it's 2 equals P?
No, because right here,
Oh, you guys.
yeah, this would be 2 equals negative P, right? So how can I get positive P?
Divide.
Divide by negative 1. And so P equals
P equals
negative
negative 2.
2. P is negative 2. Very good. And so now we're almost done. What do you need to do with that P to find what you're looking for?
Put it into.
Divide by 4.
Plug it. I mean, that is P, right? So
Plug it in.
what are we looking for?
A.
A. And so A always equals what?
1 over 4P.
1 over 4P.
So
So
it's
that-
gonna be 1 over 4 times negative 2.
That's right. 1 over 4 times negative 2.
Which 1 equals negative 8.
Hang on a second. That is correct, which means it's going to equal negative 1 over 8. Good. So now we have A, we have the vertex. Let's write our equation. What is going to be the vertex form equation of this horizontal parabola? X equals, very good, negative 1 over 8.
Is it y minus 0?
Parentheses,
Y.
y minus
0.
2
0
of 0.
And
Squared.
squared, and then
That's
plus 0.
But you don't need all those zeros.
Right, you don't need all those zeros. So what's your final answer then? X equals what?
Negative 1, 8.
Negative 1, 8. Y squared, that's right. Like that. Nice. Good. Alright, so these steps work for every single version of this kind of problem you'll get. So let's do one final example, guys, and we will be done. But I think
When we get out of here.
yeah. All right, example 2. Look at this one. It's a little different. This one says, what is the equation of a parabola with the vertex at 3, -2, and the focus at -1, -2? So the first thing you have to do is identify, is it vertical or horizontal? And how can you tell with that information right there, though? You think it's vertical? How can you tell with the vertex and the focus? What's the relationship between the vertex and the focus?
They both have -2.
They both have a -2.
And the y are equal. Right?
So both the y's are -2, right? Okay, so if you think about that on the graph, what would that look like? Let's see. If I had a graph right here and I had 3, -2, that would be like somewhere over here, down here, right? Then I would have -1, -2, that'd be over here, right? Look how they line up. Remember, the vertex and the focus always line up. And that tells you what kind of parabola it is. So if they're lining up like that, that is not vertical. It's horizontal, right? Because remember, it goes from the vertex like this, and it would be something like that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But another way you can remember this actually is just if the y's are the same. Notice how the y's are the same, right? If the y's are the same, that means they're going to line up left and right, which means it's going to be horizontal. So same y's means horizontal. Same x's means vertical, right? Yeah, because same y's, they'd be lining up left and right. The same x's, they would be lining up on top of each other. And that tells you which way your parabola is opening, okay? So now, because these are the same y's, we know that this is going to be horizontal. So I'm going to be using my horizontal equations then. So, now our first step is to do what? What's the first step in a problem like this? We label, right? So what is the vertex? 3, -2. So what do I label this 3 as? H. And what do I label the -2 as? K. Alright, the focus is -1, -2. What do I label the -1 as?
H. I mean, yeah.
Look at your equations.
Hold on. Give me a sec.
That's not what it says in your
H plus
equations.
P,
H plus P.
comma K.
H plus P, comma K. Alright, so after labeling those, we need to write an equation using P. So what would our equation be then that would have P in it?
3.
Which number has the P above it?
Never mind.
-1. So -1 equals what? That's right, it's H plus P. H plus P. Look how -1 has H plus P above it. We've labeled it. This label is literally telling us H plus P equals -1. That's why you labeled it. Because that equals whatever that number that you labeled it as. That helps you write the equation. Otherwise, how do you know what to write your equation as? Okay, so -1 equals H plus P. And then how do I find P from there?
3 plus P.
So the 2H.
Right, it goes 3 plus P because H is 3. That's right. So -1 equals 3 plus P. And then how do I find P?
Minus 3.
-3. So P equals
5.
-4. And what do I do with that P value then?
You put it in. You do 1/4P and then you do
Right, because we're trying to find, what are we trying to find again? A. And A always equals?
1/4P.
So this is going to be 1/4
1/4
times,
-4.
right? 1/4 times -4. That is right. A equals -1/16. Very good. A is -1/16. You already have your vertex, so now you're ready to write the equation. What is the equation going to be?
Negative 1 over 16.
X equals negative 1 over 16. Parentheses y is not minus 3.
Negative 2.
Plus 2.
Plus 2, right. Because remember the h's and the k's switch spots.
What is it?
Squared plus 3. Plus 3. Remember, the number on the inside of the parentheses is always opposite of what you see from your point. Because it's y minus k. Okay, so then that would be your equation right there. X equals negative 1 over 16 times y plus 2, quantity squared, plus 3. And these are the steps you use all the times when you're trying to write an equation given your vertex and something else. Alright, so that's going to be the end of these notes, guys. So I will see you in the next one. Peace!